This is Richard back at you. It's Friday, and boy, are we excited about being Friday. It's about 7 minutes after 2. We got Teresa on the camera. Thank you again, Teresa, definitely for recording. We got Matt's '02 Camaro in the house. Now, this is a turbocharged car, makes about 1,100 horsepower. Really nice car. Now, we did this tranny a few years ago, and he is wanting to upgrade to an Ultra Bell. So basically, we're going to be putting a JW bell housing on it. We're also going to come in here and put a FTI dump valve in the system. So that's going to be really nice too, and we get all that set up for him, help him spool that converter. And we've already got our high pressure rings, our new band. We have our Allison 5 direct, 5 forward. We have our 480E thin clutches and thin steels, our 34 element sprag. So that's some of our stuff right there that we'll be putting in this unit. Really nice unit that we did for this gentleman. I'm sure it's got billet shafts and all that type of stuff, because anytime we make 1,000 horsepower, that's pretty much mandatory. But anyway, you can see here he's got an electric speedometer system put in it, so he's still running a speedometer and stuff. Like I said, I don't know how, if it's a street car, drag race car, really what he does with it. I just know he goes out and enjoys it. Now we have a really neat neutral safety switch system here for your backup lights and stuff like that. You have a pressure sensor here so he can monitor the pressure in the tranny. It works off your shifter lever. Pretty neat little system. That's one thing I like about here. We get to really mess with a lot of cool stuff. Whether it's mine or not, we open a lot of presents every day here. We got UPS, FedEx, always bringing something to this shop.
A lot of local drag races here.
Yes, a lot. So, and also just the people around the United States and stuff that's bringing them now and finding us to get them built. So, that out there. Got a few washers in there, so get it spaced right. You can see those. We have a pressure switch here. Sensor. Pretty neat little system. Got a really nice neoprene mount here, aftermarket bracket. I guess that's probably this company's here. Pretty neat. Now this will have it should have a transmission specialties internal billet brake. It has one solenoid here on the outside. It's just got a plug with a modulator valve being plugged all the way into the case. Now you can see our speedometer gear down in here. We do not have no governor down in there at all. The cover's been flipped over and we just basically use it as a plug. But you can still see the speedometer gears that he's using. Now, some guys run their trannies a long time without servicing them. We have a tranny shop, and we go to the races, and next time before we even take it out, we pull the pan on the tranny every time. So we go out with a clean pan, clean filter every race. Turbo cars are hard on trannies. They seem to make metal. And of course, the filters that we have to run on these are green style high flow filters. So there's something that you want to keep changing. Get clean your pan out all the time, as you can see here what we got. Now that could be from existing, that could be from anything. Now you can see this is the original pan gasket. So basically the first race on a unit like this, we would drop the pan no matter what, clean the pan out, make sure the filter looks good, clean the screen filter out, and then you'd be ready to go. So that's not bad, believe it or not, for being as much as he's been beaten on it, but still it's something that you want to get out of your tranny and not be circulating, especially when you don't have a filter. Now you can see here, now this, a lot of trash. Now you can see this is a screen style filter, so it is cleanable. So, but I would clean this out, get that out of there, that way your pump's not circulating it and stuff like that, because that filter really isn't a filter, it's just a screen. If you put a real filter in here, it wouldn't even flow enough fluid to make this tranny happy. So, and we have a deep tube here. It gets to your filter. You have a short pan filter too, but you can't use it with an internal brake, and the tube's shorter. So you have your power wire here coming from your outer connector that goes to your trans brake solenoid. Then you have your ground wire coming over here and hooking to your 7/16 bolts. Not sure if I had the right sockets for these. My tools are scattered everywhere today. Now this here is the brake solenoid right here and part of the billet body. You're gonna clean that up good, take it apart, make sure the valve moves freely. Any type of metal. Like I say, that's why you want to clean the pan on these things instantly after a weekend of racing. So this is a transmission specialty, it's a billet valve body. Work really nice. Now there should be a check ball in here, I believe. If I can get it off there. Normally I can just slide them. Okay, these rubber gloves are there it goes. Okay. It's just a piece of aluminum plating. When you go back, take a piece of Scotch-Brite, just kind of clean it up a little bit, make sure there ain't no nicks or burrs. Because it's easy to make these holes have a little bit of nicks when you torque this down if you're not real careful. So, and then you have this ball here that will fall out. Just sets in and rattles back and forth. No check balls go back in the case at all. You leave everything out of there. We have our reverse band, servo cover. Yep. Now your valve body could come with a new spring here. But it will tell you to leave your rings off here. Put that back together. Put a new seal here. Now, anytime you mess with this bolt right here, you want to go in here and flat file this back off right here when you tighten it back, because when you nick it, it'll be raised a little bit right through here. And since your valve body doesn't have no gaskets, you want to make sure you flat file this all really nice and smooth. That way it seals really good. So, and you have your hollow bolt here. right here is normally where your modulator went. But since we went with a trans brake, it has the valve in here, but it has it blocked all the way forward. There is nothing done to the valve at all. It's just stuck back in the bore. And it's just a plug holding it forward. So pretty simple. Now we already have our nail bent. That way when it's in the parts washer, it can't fall out, or at the car wash or anything like that. I'm hoping this is an 8-bolt case. That way we don't have to recase it. But you can see there's bolts missing here and here. So it could be an 8-bolt case, and it might not be. I don't remember. So. I said these 400s, they'll hold a lot of power without billet shafts. So, but when you start getting up to that kind of power, you got to be really careful. Okay, let's look at this first. Now we do have a billet drum right here and shaft. This you can tell here they re-spline the drum, put a bigger spline count in here. Shaft's a lot bigger. Now it looks like we had a washer here or a bearing here that might have went out, possibly. You can see that's wiped out. I say you never know, because these trannies get abused and abused, guys. So it's hard to tell what you got going on. Now we have our forward clutch, looks really nice still. I know I didn't put 4 in there. We got 5 forward clutches, the Allison style, looking really good still. The forward billet drum looks really nice still. You can tell this thing was getting hot. You can see the coloration of this hub, the color of this washer right here. So we know that this thing has been getting hot. And that, we got our spiral ring here to hold our sprag assembly on. 34 element sprag assembly. Now you can see here where the washer went out right here. So we don't know what's going on here. We're going to have to get in here, but we can machine this down a little bit and actually put a roller bearing right through here, and that's what we'll probably do to try to save the drum. But mainly we want to look here on the, where the sprag runs right here. If this is good, we want to try to save this drum no matter what. So that's pretty simple to do without having to replace the drum. And then of course we have our Allison clutches again. It looks really nice. Now you notice how I stacked 2 together like that. That's the only way I could do it to get my clearances right and still get 5 clutches in there. So stacking these up ain't as easy as you think. Sometimes you got to do different things to make it work to get your clearances right. But as long as you got these 2 clutches together, they're locked like this, but physically they become one. So what I was doing is getting my material here and material here to work as my clearance. Okay, so it worked out really nice. Still looks really nice. So no wear down in here. We Scotch-Brite that back up. The race looks really good here, so keeping our fingers crossed. Let's look at the pump. Now this here is where we see a lot of wear too, because when we lock the pressure down on these 400s, and we physically don't have the car or install it or anything like that, and you can't put a pressure gauge on it, they can vary pressure. 10 to 20 pounds, simple. I mean, so It can vary from boost valve wear, normal boost valve, weak boost valve, bigger boost valve, all that type of stuff. So, you want to look here, looks really good there on the pump. Now you notice here there's no bushing here in the stator. That's because the torque converter itself has the bushing in it that centers the shaft right here and centers the stator on the inside. See, and then we just have our single bushing right here in the back. Now if you look here though, look how hot that bushing's almost purple. So that tells me that these guys, either they're struggling getting this thing boosted, it's taking a little while to get it boosted or something like that, and they're on the brake a little bit longer than they need to, and they're really starting to get the converter hot and all the fluid and stuff. That's a big sign of that. High pressure rings, which all that stuff will be new, and we can go back in there. We want to look down here at the pump body and see what it looks like. So that's where we're going to see wear too. Mainly over in here, we'll start seeing a lip starting to grow up here on the top. You can see here where GM added an area where they put oil back on the gear because they have an issue of the gear going dry right through here, especially under high pump pressure. You can see the pump bushing is still got a little bit of wear. I mean, like I said, all these bushings are brand new. To me, I'm gonna have to get in here and look at this better with my glasses on and gloves off and see if this pump body's survivable. But to me, it's possibly got too much wear. Of course, if you get in here and look, now we definitely needed this converter shoved in a little bit farther. I mean, it's about right there, probably through there, but we definitely want to look at that converter hub, make sure that hub's good, and definitely want to space it in farther, because this was a brand new set of pump gears. Now, same way when we update these to the 4L80E intermediate clutches, we have to go in here and set the clearance on this clutch pack. So we could use different snap rings, we could use different steels, anything to get our clearance where it needs to be, but they still look really good. So let's see what we ended up with. We ended up with 4 thin steel, or 4 thin clutches, 1 thick steel here that applies on the piston, and then we have 1 thin steel, and then we have a thick, and the thick is we like to put the thick in the middle, that way it dissipates heat from side between these 2 clutches here, and then we go back with a thin and then back with the clutch back to the backing plate. So putting that thick in there, it just tries to kill a little bit of temperature in the middle right there by putting that thicker steel in there. But we want the thick one on the back right there, that way it applies the clutch all the way across the clutch. So pretty neat. Let's see here. Now, I did want to say this real quick too. Anytime we do a 400 turbocharged or anything like that, we're going to restrict the converter feed right here, exhaust right here. It's about 125 thousandths, 127 thousandths. That way we're not trying to push the converter and knock the thrust out of the main bearings on the motor. LS1s especially, we have to do that on all these. So that's something you've got to remember if you're just throwing them in. You could run into engine failure. Of course, we have our support here. You can see here we left the ring off here. When we leave this ring off here, basically it's the same thing as leaving the inner seal off this drum. And by doing that, you get to use the full size of the piston to apply the clutch. Instead of using just a portion of it, it lets you use the whole width of the piston all the way around to apply that clutch. So you get a lot more surface area to do that. You want to look here for any chattering or anything like that. Look at your bushing. Now you can see here the load these cars put on this stuff. That's why, turbo cars, when you're bumping in, you're struggling, it takes you a while. I mean, you're putting so much torque and load on this stuff, it's unreal. How I know what these bushings look like, knowing that I build every one of my units, I know all my bushings have been changed. So I can go in here and look and say, okay, look what it did to this brand new bushing. I mean, you can just see the load that it started putting on this side of this bushing from here to here. You get over here on this side is different. Now the support sets in here like this, so however the torque goes, you can see that puts the load on that bushing right there. And believe me, this was a brand new bushing. We replaced every one of them. So, of course, you get into this area here. You have a bearing here. You have a bushings through here. Look how purple them bushings got. So that tells me this old tranny is getting hot. So they're definitely going to have to do something about trying to cool this thing a little bit better. Thrust washer's hot. This is your lower thrust washer, was new. Here's your lower sprag assembly. Still looks pretty good. You want to look here for any type of wear. Looks really good. Look at all your pins and your gears here. Make sure none's purple for any wobble, anything like that. Look at that bushing. That thing is purple. Look at that purple. That's pretty. Pretty green color. It's actually fixing to catch on fire, it looks like on that one. We'll get down here in our sun gear. Now, we try to keep as much oil in these planets as we can. That's why we take and leave this plastic retainer on there. It's kind of like a seal that sits in here in between them and keeps fluid built up inside this gear here. The 480E's late, stuff like that, they removed it. I guess they're dumping enough oil in there they don't need it anymore. But all of our 400s and stuff, we try to always keep putting it back in there. Now we do have another billet shaft right here. You can see here. You can tell by the color, the gray looking color, if it's an aftermarket shaft compared to, here's a stock looking one right there. So the color difference and stuff. But I'm not sure if we bought these shafts or what. I'd have to pull a ticket on it and see.
Yeah, I don't want to go back there.
Yeah. But he's definitely got to do something about the cooling system on this, because if not, we're going to be seeing this back here again. It could be in worse condition. Look at where your bushings run on your shafts here and here. Look at your bearing races. And you have one back here too. Now you want to Scotch-Brite here, Scotch-Brite all this stuff. When you go back, check on your ring gear here. Since there's such a load put on this thing, especially on both sides of this ring gear. Same way with this lower planetary. You really want to look at these gears really good, because there's a lot of force on this car leaving the starting line. Same way here. Any wobbling or anything like that. We have a reverse band here. Starting to get some wear on it. So we'll be putting a band back in here. Man, I like them bands there too. They're really good bands. Now you can see here we took the thrust washer out of the back of the case, shimmed it up to where we can run a roller bearing back here in the back. So wide bushing in there we put in there. This thing was just getting the oil really hot from probably staying on the converter too long. I mean, these turbo cars, you stay on the converter way too long. I mean, my car with a 106 on it took 2 seconds to spool. With these twin 88s, it's a second and a half. So, I mean, it's like night and day. But what I did is, on my tranny, I put a cooler in the pan. Over here, I plumbed in a tube and another tube. That way I could suck fluid out of the pan to a cooler while the vehicle wasn't running and drop the temperature in the pan of the tranny. And I mean, it was night and day difference on how we cooled this tranny. But if you're sitting there making rounds like that, I mean, your tranny is just smoking, or staying on that converter, or trying to get those turbos up. So quite a bit of work we got to do to this to get it back together, but he brought it to us for one reason, that's to do it right. Do we have an 8-bolt case? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you go. We got an 8-bolt case, so we can use this case. That'll save him some money there. Get the altar bell on there and stuff. It's gonna be really cool. Teresa, thank you again for videoing. Definitely, we can't do without you. Definitely. So y'all don't forget to subscribe. Y'all stay tuned. We got tons more to go. Have a great day.